live for real for the second time. And so we're excited to have you when you come in. If you just give us a shout as to where you're watching us from, so we can have an idea of who's here. And we're very, very, very excited to do this broadcast tonight because Be the Match is important to Nicole and I. It's really important to Nicole and I. And so the guests we have on you guys are going to want to stick around. It's going to be a good one.
Thank you guys for sticking around. We had a little technical difficulty there.
But we are all here and we look fabulous, even though you can't see any of us. I can see all of us. We all look fabulous. But except for that was a little funky there. Yep, you.
Do we have on Michelle?
We have 4 people on so far, but there's more trickling in and it updates every few seconds.
Okay, great.
So I am going. All right. So we're excited to have you all. We worked really, really hard on this broadcast. It's one that's very important to us. So, okay. So I think, Nicole, we're probably good to at least get started a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
So tonight we are working on, we're bringing you a broadcast about Be the Match, and it's Michelle and Nicole, and you'll see that in just a minute. But we have some really special guests on with us tonight. We have Brian Allison, who is from the Gulf Coast Be the Match organization, and Mackenzie Ganzak, who is from the Grand Rapids organization. And they work really, really hard with both Nicole and I, and I'm sure they're annoyed with us a lot because we are very needy sometimes. Like a lot of times, actually, probably. So hi Heather, hi Bailey. Okay. So if you're watching the show live, you are going to see a little red dot in one of your corners. I still don't know which corner it is, and so I'll probably point like this every time. And that means you're watching us currently in the moment, and we are live, even if it's later than what we planned. And if you are not seeing the red dot, that means you're watching the replay. And so it would really help us if you are watching the replay to please just type replay in the comments. So that way we know when we're replying to comments that it wasn't live. And so we need to kind of pay more attention to who was there, and needed to answer that question. So
good evening, everybody. Welcome to SDSF Live. This is our 3rd show. SDSF Live is a series brought to you by the Shwachman-Diamond Syndrome Foundation. The intent of this series is to educate and empower you. We have different subject matter experts on each time. We're your hosts, Michelle Grinnell and Nicole Shen. We're coming to you from Houston, Texas, and Michelle's coming to you from
Michigan. West Michigan.
We're in different time zones, yet we are able to do this. As a reminder, this series is public, so please do not give any private information on here that you wouldn't want the public to see. It will be uploaded to YouTube and made into a podcast.
Tonight we have 4 guests. 2 of the guests I've already introduced, but we'll have on during the first half of the show, and another 2 guests will be joining us halfway through the show as surprise guests. And you guys are really not, I don't mean this as like a catchy sales pitch, but you're really not going to want to miss them. Like, they're really good. They're really good. We're talking to Be the Match tonight, and we're talking to Be the Match because the amount of patients needing a stem cell or bone marrow transplant, approximately 1 in 3 SDS patients will need a bone marrow transplant in their lifetime, and that risk does increase with age. Sometimes patients need more than 1 transplant, more than 2 transplants, and that really depends on donors joining Be the Match, because you never know if it's going to be able to come from 1 donor or multiple donors. A bone marrow transplant is not a cure for SDS. I do want to reiterate that. It is not a cure. SDS is a genetic, typically, disease that is not cured by a bone marrow transplant. However, it does cure the blood issues of Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, which are right now one of the most dangerous parts of having SDS. So with that being said, I want to introduce our first guest. His name is Brian Allison, and he works through Gulf Coast Be the Match. So I'm going to welcome Brian.
Hey,
Hi.
good evening.
Yeah. Hi,
We
Brian.
look like the Brady Bunch on here. I see all.
I know, it's really fun. Brian, can you share with us what your role is with Be the Match?
Yeah, so my role actually just changed a little bit. I am now considered the patient and hospital liaison here in the Houston area. My primary job is actually in hospital at Texas Children's, MD Anderson, and Houston Methodist. I contact the patients when they're initially diagnosed and kind of give them an idea of what they're facing and kind of help them through that journey as we go along.
That's awesome. How long have you been with Be the Match?
Since 2013.
Wow.
A little while.
Can you give us some information on what a donation looks like?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. We're still called the National Marrow Donor Program, but 80% of our donors are asked for stem cells. The way they're collected, it's a pretty simple process. I've gone through it 3 times. I'm still here. The donor will take filgrastim at home, which makes their body overproduce stem cells. They'll come into the collection site on day of donation, start an IV in the bend of one arm. Usually they'll pick, if you're right-handed, they'll do that in the left, and then you'll have a smaller IV in the other arm. That's giving you your blood back. It just is running through a machine that filters out those stem cells, and you're sitting relaxing. I order Uber Eats and I watch TV and I go home and take a nap. A lot of our donors actually sleep through that process. So very, very simple. Typically, when we have a match for a child, then those donors are usually going to do marrow. Here in the Houston area, at least, they do that at Houston Methodist. They go through a physical first, obviously, to make sure they're healthy. And then they actually would donate blood for themselves to receive during the process. So on day of donation, you're under general anesthesia. You're completely out. Everybody worries about that. They roll you over on your stomach. It looks like you're getting 2 shots just above your bottom. They collect it very quickly with needle and syringe, so nothing major, no scars, no stitches. You get a couple of cool Band-Aids when you leave, and you walk funny for a day or 2, but nothing major like most people think it is.
Great. Can you give us some information how someone can sign up to be on the registry?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's gotten super easy. In the past, you used to have to find us and fill out that donor form. Now you can actually do that online. You can we have the link that's just popped up. So you go to the link, you're going to select, it gives you 2 options. After you click join the registry, you'll fill out your name and email. Then you're going to select mail me a kit. So once you select that, you're going to log in and fill out your donor form. It asks simple information, who you are, how we can get in touch with you, a little bit about race and ancestry, and a little bit about medical history. Once you finish that, it's going to trigger us to mail you out that swab kit. Most of our donors get it within about 7 to 10 days. You swab that cheek, and in fact, look here. So this is what's going to come in the mail. I happen to have these sitting here. I happen to have these in my glove box and in my backpack. And so, it is really simple. These show up in the mail. Just give a little bit of spit, mail it back into us. It's super simple. It doesn't cost anything. It's all prepaid. If you look on the envelope, no postage necessary. What's even better than the postage to me, you don't have to lick the thing. It is self-adhesive. I actually had a few people this last week at a drive. I'm not going to say where, but they were licking this little seam and said it tasted awful, but really, really simple to sign up to hopefully save somebody's life.
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Cool.
So, Brian, I have a question. How long is anyone on the registry after they sign up?
Yeah, so once you register, it takes usually about 8 to 10 weeks for them to test that mouth swab. From that day until you turn 61, you could get a call that you're a match. So at 61, you age off of the registry.
Okay. So what happens if you move or change your address before that or your contact information? I have a lot of times that drives people will come up and ask, how can they find out if they're still on the registry because they think they did it a few years ago.
Yeah, so we hear that a lot. People will come up and they say, hey, I did this 20 years ago. Am I still there? Do I have to do this again? No, you don't. You're still there. You're there until you turn 61 or unless you take yourself off the database. So there are a couple of ways. If you are one of the newer donors, you would have created your account. You just simply log back in and update your contact information. If you registered in the past with us, like with the paper registration, you're going to want to call customer service and they'll update it for you, but they will create that online account for you so that you can log in yourself and do it in the future. The customer service number is super easy to remember. It's 1-800-MARROW2. Just call and say, hey, I need to update so y'all can find me. That is very, very important. I cannot tell you how many times that we have been looking for a donor and had to stalk that person through Facebook because they moved, changed their phone number. We've talked to ex-girlfriends who really didn't care to hear from us regarding that individual. But, when they found out, hey, we're trying to call him because he's a match for a kiddo. Oh, well, let me give you his new number. So make sure we got that information. It is very, very important that we're able to get in touch with you. We try everything we can, but, it makes our job a lot easier.
That sounds like you're the world's best Facebook stalkers.
We do a pretty good job with it.
We're going to take a quick break from questions to announce this week's giveaway. If you guys were with us last week, we gave away an SDSF water bottle. I don't have the winner in front of me. I should have. But if you did not send your email in to me, I'll go back and look at the other live broadcast to see who that was. Our giveaway this week was very generously provided by Be the Match through Brian's chapter, and it is a Be the Match throw blanket. So that
I want to win it.
I want to win it. I don't know how.
Are we exempt from winning it?
I don't know if we put that in the rules, Nicole. I don't know if we did. So you can win this giveaway by liking this post, sharing this post, commenting on this post, interacting with us in any way, asking questions, sharing it. When you're watching the replay, type replay, because all of that keeps it bumped up in the news feeds and so people can see it, because that's the whole idea of this broadcast, is we really want it to get out to the people who need it. Yeah. So that's going to be a really cool blanket. It looks pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and bring Brian back. And we have a few more questions for Brian.
Brian, what is the likelihood of being called to donate?
So there are two different statistics. 1 in 40 that register are going to get a call for a follow-up blood sample. Okay. So a lot of people get really, really excited when they get a call saying, hey, you're a potential match. However, once they do that secondary test, only 1 in 430 are actually going to be the match and move forward to donate. So, again, like I said, we have people all the time that come by and say, hey, I did this 20 years ago. Am I a match? Or have y'all forgotten me? You haven't called. It is very difficult to find donors. So, the sad part about our job, we would love for everybody to match and help, but, it's very challenging and most don't end up getting that call.
Right. What are the current statistics of the percentage of the U.S. that signs up and that follow through once they're called?
The follow through commitment rate is actually pretty. I would say on average it's between 50 and 60%. So it is pretty low for a commitment rate, which We've done a lot of things nationally to change that. We've changed a little bit about how we operate in those discussions, those one-on-one discussions with donors. But, people, humans are consistently inconsistent. And, we'll have people change their mind for whatever reason. But we do everything we can on the front end to make sure we're signing up committed.
Right. If someone signs up in the U.S., are they only eligible to donate to another person in the U.S.?
No, absolutely not. There are multiple registries internationally. You are compared to those patients as well. You'll still donate in the area where you registered. So, for example, my donors here in the Houston area, they're going to donate either with us at Gulf Coast or they're going to go to Houston Methodist. We have couriers that are on standby to take either those stem cells or that marrow. They're waiting to load that in a cooler and head on out to Bush Airport and take that wherever that patient is.
Right. It's pretty cool.
Do what?
That's very cool, I think.
It is very neat. We are cross-trained as part of our regular thing is to be a courier, but I think my blood pressure and my nerves, just knowing I held something so precious, not a job for me. I'll leave that to somebody else.
So we have a couple of questions that I think are going to fit in really good right here. Someone had asked, what is the financial aspect of being matched with someone? So what do you look for? What's coming financially if they are, in fact, to be found a match?
Absolutely zero cost out of pocket.
Great question.
There are multiple things that we do to help cover the expense. The patient's insurance does pay for quite a bit of it. But we also fundraise to help cover costs. For example, our donors here in our area in particular, we cover their mileage if they're driving in from out of town. We've covered air transportation. If they happen to have moved out of state and come back to Houston, we cover hotel, we cover meals. All the medical cost is completely covered. Our donors don't see a dime. We have paid for childcare. We have paid for dog sitting.
To make sure it gets done, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people that's their baby, so we got to make sure they're taken care of. But there is no financial liability at all on the part of the donor. They're not going to ask you for insurance or anything like that.
That's amazing. I mean, we really have to ensure that 1 out of 430 is really going to commit and be able to be there.
Yeah, and it's so funny. We did an interview with a donor recently and asked his wife was sitting, said, how has this experience been? I asked the donor that, and his wife popped up and she says, oh my gosh, y'all have been awesome. You took care of everything. She said, y'all sent us to dinner last night. You gave us a hotel room and you had breakfast tacos for us this morning. So we were hooked up. So yeah,
sounds like a date night.
Our donors are rock stars, and we treat them like that. So
yeah.
Well, because you guys were talking about the ancestry and how that plays into effect, we would love to see what you guys think.
So this is a really common misconception of how people match. So yeah, we're curious what the audience thinks. So
what do you guys think the bone marrow typing is primarily based on? If you think it is primarily based on blood type, go ahead and click that little heart emoji. If you think it is based on your gender, click the thumbs up. If you think it is based off of your geographic ancestry, hit the crying button. And if you think it is based off of your age, go ahead and hit the laughing emoji.
What are they thinking, Michelle?
I love seeing them pour in. There is a little bit of a delay. So I've seen a couple come in that say blood type. 3, 4, 5 just popped up that it's gender.
Oh.
There's a couple. It's really across the board, Nicole. There's a lot of different answers coming in.
So this was a good question then.
It was a very good question.
Wow.
And I'm gonna give it just maybe a couple more seconds. There comes some for geographic ancestry, a couple more for blood type, a lot for blood type coming in. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you give it away, Nicole.
Okay, well,
I'll keep all the answers.
I'll give a little background in a second about my son, but this is a really great question that I like to ask. The answer is geographic ancestry. It's a very common misconception. A lot of people think it's blood type. Was that the most common answer people gave, was blood type?
I can't see entirely, but I do think it was blood type. Blood type came in a lot.
People think blood type. And it could be very geographic specific at times. Brian, based on this information, what is the likelihood of someone finding a match based on their ancestry?
So that's going to vary greatly dependent upon race and ethnicity of the patient. If you look at the database here in the U.S. alone, 61% of our database is Caucasian, which for those patients means they have a higher chance of finding a donor. Typically around 77% will find at least one good matching donor. That drops off sharply for our ethnically diverse patients. As you can see from the chart, this is a very broken down version within the Black and African American communities. Only about 23% of those patients find a match. Hispanic communities, 43% find a match. So as you can see, it greatly differs. And when you start talking about multiracial patients, such as Roman, those numbers can be in the teens or lower than 1%.
Right.
So it makes huge an impact in what we do. That question I love because it kind of covers a few things. In the incident that we find multiple matches for a patient. The other aspects, the blood type and the gender, do come into play, but it is primarily based upon chromosome 6 in the DNA that's telling us about your immune system, and those are characteristics that have just been handed down generation to generation. So you are more likely to match somebody that looks like you about 91% of the time. So lots of numbers to throw out there, but that plays a huge role in these patients finding their perfect match.
So Brian, spoiler alert, Brian is our Be the Match rep. He's been our rep for years. Those of you that don't know me personally, I have a just turned 5-year-old son named Roman. He was diagnosed at Texas Children's at 4 months old, and his genetic confirmation came back when he was 6 months old. And that day, when he was 6 months old, they said he does have Shwachman-Diamond syndrome, confirmed genetically. And our hematologist said, meeting you guys, Roman's dad is Chinese. I see we talked with you, you're Italian. We thought he might have trouble needing a bone marrow transplant. So I'm getting, in the same meeting, your son has this very serious disease. He most likely will need a bone marrow transplant. At that time, he had an ANC of 0 and his red cells were failing as well. And so she said, we went ahead and ran him, and he's got no one in the world. And so 5 years later, there's still no one on the registry that matches him. And so, Brian, can you talk a little bit about how Be the Match has really amped up their search for diverse donors like my son, Roman?
Yeah, so we realized that there was a problem. You look at the donor database and you're seeing who's registering and who's not. So we actually have a pretty new CEO within the last couple of years that has laid out a huge goal for us. By, I believe the date is 2028. Don't quote me exactly, but our goal is to make it so that every patient, no matter their race and ancestry, has the same equal chances of finding a donor. So that's a pretty big goal. So where do you start to accomplish that? What we set out to do, we started off with the Black and African American community. They started doing focus groups. They sent a team nationwide to the historically Black colleges and universities to sit down and talk to those students. Our college age students, that's what most transplant doctors consider the ideal donor. Somebody that's between 18 and 24. So that's the group we needed to start with. They went in and started asking, how do we change our message? What do you perceive transplant to be like? Who do you think it affects? Even questions that, most people wouldn't think of. How do you prefer to be addressed? How do you identify your community? Even slight changes in how we talk to people have made a huge difference.
Yeah.
They started with that community. They did some focus groups within Hispanic colleges and then within the Asian colleges. And they have taken all of that data back and changed a lot of how we talk to people, how we market to people. It has been really cool for me, having done this job for as long as I have. A lot of times when I would work with ethnically diverse patients, Black, Hispanic, multiracial, it was not uncommon for those patients to sit for months, years, and never find a donor. I can't tell you how many patients that have passed away and in the years of doing this that never found their match. So we went from that to I had a Hispanic patient, JJ, here in the Houston area, found his donor really, really quickly. We had an African American patient that found her donor very quickly, a multiracial patient that found his donor very quickly. So we know that the things we're doing are changing. Yeah. We're seeing those numbers increase. It's a slow process. It's not going to happen overnight. But we have some very, very dedicated people that are extremely passionate about this. And so I have no doubt we're going to accomplish that goal.
I love hearing that that more multiracial patients are finding their matches, because I know that's a lot of the focus of when we go out to drives is really broadening that search. So thank you for all of your input. I appreciate it. We'll have you back in just a few minutes. So I get the pleasure of bringing our next guest on. She is my Be the Match rep up here in Michigan. And I'm sure Nicole and I have both bothered her a lot. Her name is Mackenzie. She is here. She's here. So I'm going to mute Nicole. Mackenzie, can you share with us your role with Be the Match?
Yeah, so I am a community engagement representative. So I work to set up drives with whether it be with patient families or with college students. I work with Be the Match on campus, which is college students who have band together and kind of made an organization on campus. I just work to set up drives and attend them and spread the word and make sure we get more donors on the registry.
I think you do an amazing job. I've done multiple drives with you and I like it a lot. So, yeah. So you are my local rep. Can you tell us how the Be the Match drive is normally scheduled?
Yeah. So if somebody am I being interrupted?
No, I don't think so.
Sorry. If somebody wants to run a drive, they just have to go on the Be the Match website and they fill out a little form. And then that form is sent off to one of the reps. So if I were to get a form that had all the information, I just reach out and we schedule it. It's really based on when the coordinator wants to schedule it. So they pick the date, time, location. I provide all the information. So I do the training on what a drive looks like. So how to swap, how to sign people up, key information that they're going to need to know, educational stuff like the 1 in 430. That's a really good informational piece that people like to know. So I do all the training. I get all the materials. If it's local and I'm able to attend, I love attending drives. It puts a little bit of pressure off the coordinator. They're able to just engage and really talk to people about Be the Match, and then I worry about the logistics of signing them up. But if I'm not able to be there, still totally okay to run a drive on your own. I send out all the training materials so you're fully ready to go. I send the tablecloth, the stickers, the flyers, the swab kits, and make sure that you're all trained before the event.
I have multiple bins of things in my garage, and I never quite know where anything is inside of them. And so I'll go in and I'll go to pull out, brochures, and I pull out a tablecloth, and I'm like, that's not what I needed. And so it just gets shoved back in. I know Brian had mentioned a little bit about the best ages that we want to swab are right in that college demographic. Can you explain a little bit about Be the Match on campus, and how someone might be able to get involved with something like that?
Yeah. So, obviously, if you're on college campuses looking to see if there's already a Be the Match on campus there, if there's not, they're always welcome to start a group. A lot of college students want to be part of an organization. It looks really good on a resume. It helps them build communication skills. It helps marketing skills. So they're welcome to start their own group. The reason that we really focus on our Be the Match on campus group is because, like Brian said, our main donor pool, really, we like to have them 18 to 25-ish. Now, when you're at a donor drive, we sign up 18 to 44. It's absolutely free, anybody 18 to 44. Once you're over that 44 range, you can still sign up and you're still welcome to. It's just going to cost you that $100 to get your swab kit tested. We cover that cost, 18 to 44, because like Brian said, transplant centers really go for that 18 to 25 range. So we want to make sure that we're getting as many people on the registry within that range, and we like to extend it a little bit more to make sure that we're hitting, adults as well. So if somebody wanted to start a group, they would just have to go on the website and say they wanted to start a group. Once again, it would end up in my hands or whomever the rep is in that state, and then they would be reaching out to kind of go over all the information.
That's really good to know. So if, let's say someone attends a drive and they send in a swab, what happens to that swab after it gets sent in?
Yep. So after it gets sent in, it's sent to the repository in Minnesota. Like Brian said, it takes about 8 to 10 weeks for that to be processed and you to be put on the registry. One big thing that if you sign up at a drive, making sure that you're answering the confirmation email. So about an hour or two after you swab your cheek and you've gone to that drive, you're going to get an email that just is basically just saying, are we okay to test that swab kit? If they don't confirm that email, their swab kit is destroyed and they are never put on the registry. So making sure they're just clicking yes on that commitment email. I believe we have a text at this point as well. So all they have to do is opt into texting. They'll get a text message that says yay or nay, and they just hit yes. If they hit no, their swab kit's destroyed and their profile is destroyed as well. So all very important things to make sure that if you want to be on the registry, you're really fully committed to being on it.
Absolutely. What is the likelihood of a patient finding a match within their family versus needing to find a match from an unrelated donor?
Yeah, so most of the time, they're always going to test the family first. So about 30% of the time, they're able to find that match within their family, which means 70% of the time they're looking at either Be the Match or a different registry to find the match.
That's scary. I don't like that. So families are in a very vulnerable place to depend on the general public for the medicine their loved one needs. And we're very thankful that Be the Match is out there helping get people on the registry. I know I have a personal connection to it. Nicole has a personal connection to it, but the more we're doing events, we see that there's a lot of people who don't have personal connections to it, and it's really inspiring to see. So the next question we have is for both you and Brian, and I'm hoping we can get us all up here. Perfect. What are some misconceptions from people about why they can't join the registry? Mackenzie, if you can answer first, that'd be great.
So in regards to why they can't join, a lot of people think that if they can't donate blood because of an iron deficiency, a lot of people are like, well, I can't donate blood, so I can't donate bone marrow. Completely a misconception, because either we're giving them the filgrastim to help them form those blood forming cells, we're giving that to them. So we make sure that the iron deficiencies aren't an issue. That's the biggest one that I see come through is I can't donate blood, so there's no way I could donate bone marrow, but that's a common misconception.
Brian, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, kind of follow up with that, and a lot of what Mackenzie said. You know, people just assume since they can't do blood, they can't do this. So some things that would keep them from giving blood that does not affect them from being a stem cell or marrow donor. You know, I always say mad cow. So I used to work with the military when I was a blood recruiter, and you know, we would have those guys come by and say, "Sorry, mad cow, I can't give." That doesn't affect you from being a stem cell or marrow donor. One of the biggest things to me, that the message I want everybody to know, is who you love should not affect who you can save. So for our gay men, you can become a stem cell or marrow donor. That's something that we want everybody to know. You know, it's a lot of times people assume that, well, I can't do this because of this. We want you as a donor very, very much. You know, diabetic. A lot of people, I'm type 2 diabetic, but I can be a stem cell donor. I can be a marrow donor, you know, as long as you're not on insulin. So those are kind of the three that I hear more than anything.
I think we have just a few minutes for some questions from the audience. Let's see. Brian, in some European countries, the percentage of people who are enrolled in their bone marrow registry is very high. Why do you think the number or percentage of participants is so low in the United States? And what are some things we can do to encourage more people to become donors?
Great.
You know, in all honesty, if I had the answer to that, I would be the rock star in the Be the Match community. You know, it comes down to cultural differences. You know, some cultures, it's just expected of you. I know Germany, it's just something that they do. You know, here in the U.S., you know, we have so many different beliefs that play a part in that. You know, the biggest thing is, you know, there are a lot of myths and various things that are shared community, or my grandma said, or this, that, and it really comes down to education. You know, the more we're hammering away in these communities, you know, we're learning who we need to talk to get our message through to these communities. Really just comes down to education.
And then Mackenzie, another question that came in, and I think it's a really good one. So there's a few different times this has been asked. If someone has SDS, who obviously they cannot donate because of the mutations we have, what are some things they can do to be helping people, even if it's not marrow donation?
Yeah, so I mean, they can be running drives and getting other people on the registry. They can fundraise. And because like Brian said, it can get costly for these, not only the patients, but for the donors. And we want to ease those costs as much as possible. We cover it all for the donor. So anything that, you know, is donated is helpful. And then for the patient as well, I mean, we want to make sure these patients aren't getting these transplants and having a financial difficulty. So any fundraising that's done goes right back to the patients in need. And then volunteering. So I run drives all the time, and I'm always looking for more people who are super passionate about the cause and Be the Match and what they can do just to come along and help me and help educate the community around us. So those are a couple different ways they can help with Be the Match.
Is there any way to find out if there's drives in our area? Is there like a search tool or a way to see if there's anything locally near us?
Yeah, if they're at the Be the Match website, there should be a volunteer link so they can go onto that and see drives within their area. I recommend finding out who your rep is and reaching out to them individually, just to make sure that you're on their list. So that way, anytime I need anything, where you are, Nicole, or where you are, Michelle, you know, I always call you. So
it's true. It's true.
Hey, Brian,
let me add to that. You know, there is also a volunteer webpage that you can go to directly. It's bethematchvolunteer.org. I know for our team here in Houston, we enter our drives into that, and people who are registered as volunteers, they can go in and actually select the events that they want to help out with. It's a really, really great tool, especially for kiddos that are needing community service, because they can log in geographically when they get to their event, and it's going to log those hours for them. So it's a great tool. Again, it's bethematchvolunteer.org website.
Hey, Brian, I have a quick question. This was sourced from our support page. There used to be a search engine where you could type in the HLA type and it would tell you how many low resolution matches someone had.
Right.
Where did that go?
So that I actually had to do some calling around for that because I didn't remember that we had that tool. Basically, through asking everybody and finding out where it went. One of the biggest things we try and avoid is giving people false hope. That can definitely change a lot of things, how you what your course of treatment is to so what they realized is that was such a low resolution, it really wasn't giving an accurate result. There are just too many complexities when it comes to finding these donors, that they didn't want to give these searching families a false sense of security, if you will. So the decision was made to go ahead and end that program, because it just imagine being that family that comes back with zero, and when in reality you may actually have somebody. So it works both ways.
So now the doctors are the ones that can source that information, correct?
Correct.
They have access to that.
The transplant physician or the transplant coordinator are ones responsible for doing that search and getting those results back.
Thank you guys both for answering all these questions tonight. I appreciate them, and I'm sure we're going to have more pouring in for you. But the beautiful thing is that because you can stalk us to volunteer, we can stalk you to answer questions. So
we make up great sounding answers as we go along.
Well, I think it's doing phenomenal. I think it's great. I don't know. I love, sometimes you don't see, super active Be the Match reps, and you guys are very on top of it. And I know Nicole and I both appreciate it a lot. So thank you for all of your answers. I'm just going to lower you down, so don't go anywhere. Okay. So Nicole, I am going to let you have the pleasure of announcing our next guest. And I know you're excited about it, and I know he's excited. I can see that he's excited about it. I can see his face. And so I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. Some of you know this story, some of you don't. But when we were talking about having Be the Match on, I just thought it would be really fun to have this guy on because he was a fun surprise for me. Last January, I ordered Amazon package like I always do, and I got it in the mail. I was actually on the phone with Be the Match at the time I got this package. They were telling me that through a Roman drive that we had found someone else's match. So I was really excited, and I'm opening the package, and in my Amazon package, I see the person who packed my package, his lanyard, his keys, his badge, everything is in the package with the boots. So I told Be the Match, I need to get off the phone. I need to find this guy, like his car keys. Like, this is expensive to replace this. So I called Amazon and they couldn't help me, oddly, but they couldn't help me. And so I messaged him on Facebook. His name and everything, where he was located, was on the badge, and said, I have your keys. I want to get it back to you. And then I posted it on social media because I didn't hear from him. So 4 hours later, 4 hours on social media is a long time, especially on a page like mine, because my page has gotten rather large with me trying to find Roman's match. So I have 4,000, I guess, people on my page, which is not huge, but enough, right? So 4,000 people looking for Kenneth Delarme, who dropped his keys in my package. And so little did I know, Kenny works at Amazon, or used to work at Amazon in the San Antonio area. and works nights, had his phone off. So 4 hours later, what happened, Kenny? This is Kenneth.
4 hours.
When you woke up, what happened?
I used to have like 100 notification of people like look. I and in my Instagram too, like 100 message like, hey, where are you? Oh my God, you lost your keys. I was like,
so people
crazy.
got really crazy to find him. It got shared, I think, 400 something times in the 4 hours. And in that time, someone said, I can't believe Nicole is going through these lengths to find this guy. And someone said, I think it was my friend Julie, said, if you think this is a lot, you should see what she's doing to find her son's bone marrow match. So then it became a thing in this 4 hour period of, well, this Kenneth guy needs to swab to thank Nicole for the keys. So within seconds of us talking, he's hearing all about Be the Match and he needs to save my son's life and all this stuff. But you did, Kenny. I told you about my son, and within minutes, you became like a super advocate. And so Kenny started sharing my son's story. And the news picked up our story the very next day. I didn't think it was you lost keys. I returned your keys. I thought it was very nice what you did for me, but I didn't really think it was newsworthy. But apparently a lot of people were very enthralled in watching this play out over the hours. Anyway, so the news picked it up, and then the next day, People Magazine picked it up, and then Steve Harvey and all the talk shows started talking to us. So we didn't wind up on any of those talk shows, Kenny, but for a variety of reasons. But that was a fun 15 minutes, wasn't it? It was a lot of fun. How was that experience working with Be the Match, Kenny?
It was awesome. One of the best thing, I think so. God brought me to my hands to work with a lot of people, telling people how to swap and everything, knowing the company of Be the Match, like learning all the time. Like, I think so for a couple of months, I was like, what is like Be the Match, and helping Be the Match too, like every single time, like sharing stories or like other kids, and because it's really important to participate and swap for
it was. And so we wound up months later swabbing your Amazon location, which was really awesome. So Brian was involved in that as well. So thank you so much, Kenny, I call it our cosmic collision, in that we were
You're my fairy godmother.
We were brought together. So Kenny has moved to Orlando, still with Amazon. You haven't lost your keys since, though, right, Kenny? No, but he's still. You are still
sometimes, but I find it all the time.
You are still a super advocate, though. It's almost 2 years later, Kenny, and you're still advocating for us. Like, losing keys became this big thing for both of us. It was really, really cool. Do we have any of those?
I remember being on the phone with you, Nicole, not too long after it blew up everywhere. And you were like, oh, I'm at Costco because I have to buy a tile. I'm like, what are you buying a tile for? And she's like, I have to send it to Kenny with his keys. He can't lose them.
Oh my God. And it's worth it. It's worth it.
Kenny, and doesn't Amazon have like multiple checks and balances so that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
So it's bizarre that happened, but it was meant to be so that you heard our story and we heard your story and we were able to work together. So it was really awesome. Michelle, do we have any graphics from that?
The only one that I have is this one of People Magazine, and
Kenny and my Roman.
Yes, Kenny and Roman. And then quite possibly one of my favorite pictures is, obviously the keys and the boots, but then Kenny with his Roman shirt on, loud and proud. And as a complete third party who's not, number one, not in Texas, number two, not near you guys, geographically at all for any events or anything, I can feel Kenny's enthusiasm just for swabbing people all the way up here in Michigan. My friends know who Kenny is. My friends know who Kenny is. They're like, how's that guy with the Amazon with the keys? How's he doing? So you're not just a local celebrity. You are a global celebrity for everything that you do for SDS.
Kenny.
And I appreciate it.
Kenny, when I was talking to you earlier today, my babysitter was like, is that Kenny from Amazon? Like, you are known in these circles. So thank you so much, Kenny. We love you.
I
so
love
much.
you. Thank you so much for the
all the work
participation.
you've been
I
doing
love
all
you.
these years. Thank you.
Well, speaking of known, I get the pleasure of introducing our next guest, and I am pretty excited to introduce this one. She's also very well known in our community and in our circles, and so if you followed Nathan's story or Roman's story, I can guarantee you are going to know who's coming on next, and I'm going to try to hold my composure together, and I know Nicole's trying to hold hers together, and I'm pretty sure our guest is trying to hold hers together. So without further ado, I would really like to introduce my good friend, Carrie. This is Carrie Wyndham. Her son is Rowan. If you know any of the stories of Rowan or his impact or how he has affected all of our lives, you got to hold it together because I got to hold it together.
I know.
I see that. I know. So, Carrie, we're very, very, very happy to have you on here because I know Rowan was very passionate for finding matches in one of his many, many, many triumphant goals in life. So I would love to have you. Can you share about Rowan and why he was so passionate?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on. I'm so happy to still be able to try to stay involved and to try to help. Rowan, was born in 2006. He was sick from birth. Around a year old is when he got clinically diagnosed with Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. He spent half his life in the hospital, just in and out, repeat infections, had so many complications. Around 8 years old, they told us, it's time to go to transplant. He's not going to survive one of these septic events. He did not have any matches, though. To look at him, he's not one of your, difficult nationalities to find, but for some reason, there just were none on the registry. Our local, I'm here in Texas, but our local Be the Match representatives tried tirelessly to find a match for him. We held events all over San Antonio, New Braunfels. I think hundreds and hundreds within the first 2 or 3 weeks that we tried to hold registry events signed up, but still there were no matches. We ended up going to transplant. There was no time left, so we went to Seattle Children's Hospital, and we had to proceed with myself as the donor. And I don't think that we touched on this earlier, but when you don't have a match, one of the other options is a haplo or a half match, which would be the parents. It's difficult. It can be successful, but it's very difficult. They're still going to have, potential graft versus host or to the portion of my cells that they did not match with. But we really didn't have a option at that point. So throughout this, while we were prepping to go to Seattle, Rowan knew that Roman didn't have a match. He knew that he didn't have a match, and he just could not believe it. The picture that you're going to put up there with the dandelion is Rowan blowing on the dandelion after we had just met with Roman before we left for transplant. And Rowan said, I just want to find his match. I want to heal him. I want to be able to, I don't want him to go through what I've gone through. And so he blew on that dandelion, wishing that he could find a match for his friend. When we told Rowan, okay, we still don't have the match, but mommy's going to try. We're going to do our best. He said, you know what? This is crazy. How does everybody not have a match? I want to spend the rest of my life trying to find 1 million matches for people who need them. And he meant that. Even though he was facing the biggest battle of his life, he was more concerned, not that he didn't have one, but more concerned with trying to find matches for other people. My transplant for him failed. He had graft rejection and graft failure. So we had to try again. He started more chemo, more radiation, and we tried his dad the second time. Again, a very risky way to go. that one was working. That transplant itself was working, but at that point, his little body had been through so much his whole life and through transplant, that on December 15th, 2016, Rowan passed away from transplant-related complications. We vowed, not to let his life be in vain. I try to follow all the things that he was passionate about. I try to continue to do those. And I've promised him it might not happen in my lifetime, but I hope it happens eventually, that a million matches are found for other people. And as you can see on the little thing he wrote there was actually a state representative asked him once. She said, "You can do everything. You play soccer. You're in theater. What can't you do?" And that's the list of things that he said he couldn't do. And one of them there, I can't cure my friend's cancer, but I love that he put yet. And
yeah, that's my favorite part on that whole piece of paper. And I knew I had to show people this piece of paper, because this piece of paper, if you didn't know Rowan, or if you didn't know Rowan's story, this piece of paper sums Rowan up in one of the best ways I've ever seen. He can't tell a lie. He really couldn't. He really couldn't. He tried. He can't grow hair like his brother. His brother has beautiful long locks. He can't cure his friend's cancer yet. And I know a few people might have seen what we did for Rowan's family a few weeks ago, maybe months at this point ago. Was Rowan, every day he was in the hospital, he would hold up a sign that said, "Today I'm fighting for someone," and it had a personalized, printed out picture of the person he was fighting for. He fought for Roman. He fought for Jaylene. He fought so many people, and I know that we did recreate those for your family, because that's the impact Rowan had on all of us, is that he did not stop living his life at all. And if he even paused living his life, it's because he was helping someone else. It was never, and I think that's to safe to say for your whole family, is I love seeing the impact you guys are still making with the cereal drives, with getting people out there for matches, you were dyeing pasta the other day because you're living out what he wanted to. And I think you're doing it beautifully.
Living
Thank
double.
you.
She's living
Thank you.
double.
Yes, living double. That's a really good way to put it. That's a really.
Why you gotta bring up the thing we did for her?
I don't know what to tell you.
We had a pact not to cry. We're the hosts, and you have to.
Carrie broke it. Carrie broke the pact first.
Okay. All right. Do we have our Kleenex graphic?
I think I do somewhere. Hold on. Where did it go? It's so great. There you go.
All right. Okay, Michelle. We want to thank all our guests tonight. Do we have time for any last minute questions or comments?
So I am going to attempt to switch up some people here. Hold the phone for just a second. Yes, I love having all of you guys on. I'm gonna move. It's getting so hard. Just getting so hard. There's too many people on here. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go with my hands and my scrolls, and I don't know what to do. Okay, there we go. Ready? It's gonna be great. Just watch. There we go. Okay. So I have a question for all four of you, because you are all intricately woven into this weird little blanket of be the match and needing matches and transplants, and it's this really cool interwoven blanket of people. What's one thing that you wish people knew about Be the Match? That's maybe not one of the most publicly shared graphics, or one astounding fact that that might help people really understand the magnitude of why we need more matches.
The first thing that pops into my head is people are dying, and it's a simple act to keep that from happening. That to me is the most significant thing about what we do. I watch these families struggle, and I just can't help but think some days it doesn't have to be this way. We need more people to step up.
What about you, Nicole? What's one thing?
For me, I would say the medicine, like a lot of people say, I wish I could cure this or I wish I could help with this. Like the medicine's in you. Like it's already free. It's in you. You just have to swab your cheek and learn about it and spread the word. And anyone could help, like literally anyone could help. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm too old or I'm overweight, or anyone could spread the word about this. You know someone that's eligible, someone you could share a story to encourage someone. So this is like the easiest thing. Like now that I'm woke about this, like I talk about it constantly. I talk about it because it needs to be talked about.
Carrie, what's one thing you wish everyone knew?
Just what a selfless organization it is, what a family really ends up being created. I mean, people who want to help other people survive and other people live come alongside you and just become so close in your family. I know that even when Kenny's face popped up here on the live stream today, I burst into the biggest smile. I couldn't even hear what he was saying yet, but I saw his face and it just made me smile so big because I know how big his heart is for this. The picture you have of him on Rowan's grave, I don't know if you were able to put that up.
I did. I put it up, but it kind of went away very fast because
That's okay.
let's see how I can make this up here really quick. We're gonna do that real quick, and then we're gonna do that. And so you kind of have to scroll in because it ended up being a little smaller, but
Sure. It reminded me of that moment where Nicole told me about what happened with Kenny and the Keys, and then he was already instant family with her, then he became instant family with me because I was instant family with her. Like just the connection is just so powerful with people trying to help people save lives. And that's Kenny sitting there with me. Nicole took that picture and it's sitting on Rowan's grave when poor Roman had to play with a truck on Rowan's grave, which friends shouldn't have to do with little friends. But it just shows like the bonds that you can create when you try to help save lives like this.
What about you, Kenny? What's one thing you wish everyone knew about Be the Match? You're a total outsider. You are connected to all of us, but you don't have a kid fighting this. You don't have any volunteer hours you have to create. This is something you do completely out of the selflessness of your heart. And what's one thing you wish people knew about Be the Match?
People can just go like everywhere. You can be in your phone, like register people like over here, like I did. Like I almost got kicked out of the mall.
You did.
Just be out there. You can like talk about it, like talk how like it's frustrated for like us because we want to like help everybody. And we can like help like for in the phone, like we can just like talking like, or like I think so like all my family swap,
Yeah.
and like just tell like the stories and like educate like every single time like people like how they can work, because it's like Brian said, like people are dying and we don't want that to happen to no more families in the world.
Yeah, again, I want to thank all of you for being on. I know you're all very, like I said, you're very woven together. You're very intricately created into each other's lives and for very odd reasons. And I for one, appreciate you all the way up here in Michigan around all the water that I have in the snow, because and you guys are, I mean, people who know Nathan, people who know our story, they know Carrie, they know Rowan, they know Kenny, they know SDS is such a small community as it is that we really know people when we know people. So Thank you guys.
Thank you all for being on.
Yes, thank you. Thank everybody for being on. Mackenzie left, but she's in the audience somewhere. She jumped off to go answer questions in the audience. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna remind you of how to get that giveaway. That giveaway is so good this week. That throw is like everything. So hit replay, share this, comment, just interact somewhere on this show to be entered into this week's giveaway, which is the Be the Match throw.
Yes. I'm going to throw this up because I don't know how it didn't get asked. So I think it's a good closeout is, what is your connection with Be the Match? We want to know. We want to know if you've helped with the Marrow Drive. if you are a transplant patient with a match from an unrelated donor, or if you weren't familiar with Be the Match at all before this, we want to know where you're at. And as always, please reach out to Nicole or I if you ever need help with this, ever need help organizing a drive. Obviously, we can get you connected to the people who were just on. I know Mackenzie has helped people in other states when they were having issues with receiving their kits or their rep, getting a hold of their rep or anything. Yeah.
If you have any ideas for show topics, let us know. If you have a subject matter expert that you'd like to have on, contact Michelle or I to get them on. If you have any suggestions how to make this show better, let us know. This was a great show, Michelle. I'm so happy we had
this was. And with all the technical difficulties that happened, we only went 5 minutes over, which I'm pretty sure is a brand new record for us entirely.
I know, we're only
Phenomenal.
3 shows in, and we were technically 6 deep tonight. We had the 4 guests, and we were 6 deep, counting us. So
phenomenal, Nicole. Phenomenal.
Michelle,
thanks for signing up on this.
I'm calling Michelle the wizard behind the scenes, clicking and moving everybody around. But thank you, Michelle. I know that was a lot of work on you tonight. Thank you so much.
That's okay. I think we both had really long weeks, and I'm surprised either of us are here. I'm not going to lie. You did great. No, but thank you guys again for joining, and we're going to go ahead and end off the broadcast. And then Nicole and I are always available. Thank you to all of our guests: Brian Allison from Gulf Coast Be the Match, Mackenzie Ganzak from Michigan Blood Be the Match, and then we had obviously the infamous Amazon Kenny. Thank you, even though you're not really Amazon anymore. You got a new job, I think. I don't know if it's even announced. I shouldn't somewhere at the new Amazon building.
Still with Amazon and Disney.
Yeah. In Florida, which is beautiful and warm. And thank you, Carrie, for coming on and helping share Rowan's story. And I value and appreciate that too.
Okay.
So thank you guys for everything tonight. Bye. Have a good night.